hey, this is CK Barlow. This is another in my series of interviews for the Arts Entrepreneurship class in the Arts Management program at the University of New Mexico. And today I'm really delighted to have with me basically the first person I've met in Baltimore, other than some of my partner's coworkers, the lovely and talented Alexis Kimbrough of the Growth Group. And the Growth Group... Hey.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a tongue twister there, but thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And the reason that we got in touch is because, of course, I, trying to do the right thing, am looking into how I go about registering my composing business now that I live here in Maryland. And I just did an internet search, and I found Alexis's firm, the Growth Group, which is really cool. It's an accounting firm that specializes in services for musicians, bands, recording studios, publishers, and so forth. So I thought it would be great to talk with Alexis today and find out kind of more about what she does, but also with an eye toward this notion of complementary opportunities, which we are talking about in the class, which has to do with finding those things that you enjoy doing and those things that you're really good at and combining them to come up with maybe an interesting business idea or a cool opportunity for earning some money. So, yeah, so I guess let's get started. So, Alexis, you have a really great background. It's super interesting to me that you were a flute player, maybe still are a flute player, and that's one of the things that, how you ended up at Howard to study there. You want to tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are now?
Sure. So I started playing flute at age 10. It was one of those things where we got to try out like all the band instruments, and I ended up picking flute, and my mom bought me one, and I knew it was a sacrifice for her to purchase that instrument. Like we didn't necessarily have the money, and so I wanted to make sure that if I was going to ask her to make that sacrifice, that I was going to be really good. And I was actually going to practice. It wasn't going to be something that I put down in 15 minutes or, 2 years. So I ended up playing flute all the way through high school. I went to state competitions and all that kind of stuff. And then ended up getting I really wanted to go to Howard University. That was one of my top choices. So my mom took me out there for spring break my senior year. And little did I know that they even had a band. Let alone that they were offering scholarships. And so my mom called the band director the night before we went in, and he's like, yeah, have her come in. I didn't even have my instrument with me. He's like, no problem, we'll give her one, and so he went in, he handed me a sheet of music and asked me to sight read it, and I played it, and after I finished, he said, do you want a scholarship? Of course I do, why wouldn't I? So that's kind of what kicked it off. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to secure financing to be able to go to Howard. So I did take him up on that music scholarship. I played in the different bands that we have at Howard for the full 4 years I was there on scholarship, and but I ended up getting an accounting degree. I never had planned to make music my full-time thing, but it definitely helped to get me where I am now, and that's now that I'm with Growth Group, that's kind of my give back to the community or the discipline, if you will, that helped me become an accountant. So I went and graduated from Howard, and then I went to American University, which is also in D.C., and got my master's in taxation. So I'm kind of a tax and accounting expert, if you will.
That's fantastic. Okay, first off, I love your mom. That's so awesome. I mean, okay, there are a lot of parents out there who will, well, for starters, there are a lot of parents out there who would not make that sacrifice for their kid and get them that instrument. There are a lot of parents who would have make that sacrifice, but the fact that you at that age were like so clear that it was a stretch for your family to do this for you, and you had been raised to that point to say, like, okay, I better keep up my end of the bargain here.
Yeah, for sure.
That says worlds about, like, your mom. That's rad. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
And that she had the presence of mind to call the band director and set that up. I mean, that's so great. That's so great.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's not shy in any way. So she's like,
I'm hearing that.
Yeah, if you really want to go to school here, you better work it out, figure out what it is that you can do to get yourself here, and why not use that talent that you've been playing for the last, like, at that point had been, what, 8 years or so. Why not bring that here, you know? And that was my way in, if you will, to Howard. They hadn't even processed my application yet, and the director said he would make sure that I got in. And I'm like, oh, this is so nice. You know, it just ended up working out that way. Not to say I couldn't have gotten in otherwise, but it was probably certainly a help that I had a scholarship waiting for me there too. So, and my mom has a musical background as well. She's played piano in church and sings and that kind of thing, as well. So, you know, she values the arts as well. So that's definitely a help. Hey, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Mom. And was there sort of an aha moment for you? Like, why accounting? Was there a point at which you were like, I really dig numbers, or what happened for you?
Yeah, I can't say that I really dig numbers. I know that sounds crazy, but I originally went to Howard thinking I was going to be a lawyer. And of course, okay, lawyers, accountants, doctors, we can call them all the same thing maybe. But I took my first pre-law class and I was like, oh, I cannot do this. It was just so not interesting for me. And so I was like, okay, I need to find out what else I want to do. And my uncle had said, hey, why don't you try out the business school, because there's a lot of different disciplines within the business school, but you'll probably be able to find, you know, a job after college if you major in something business related. So he's like, just transfer to business school. So I did that. And of course, one of the first classes you have to take is accounting. And I was like, everybody hated the accounting classes, okay? Like, everybody in business school has to take them, but it's not something that's anybody's favorite. But I did really well, and I was like, oh, I get this. It's not, I don't want to say it's not difficult, but it just really clicked for me. And I was like, okay, well, I can do this. Why don't I change my major to accounting? And then the interest came. So I think I'm more of a try it type of person. Try it and see how it goes and how you like it and how it fits for you. And then I'm like, okay, well, if this is something that I can do, I have the ability to do, and then it's also kind of interesting to me, then I kind of marry those two things together. So that's kind of where the accounting part started, is that I had to take the class, and I ended up being pretty good at it. So I was like, hey, why don't I change this to my major? And then, of course, later I married the accounting and the music together. So.
All right. So talk to us about Growth Group. What exactly does Growth Group do?
Yeah, sure. So we're an accounting firm. And as broad as that is, we've made it a lot more specific in that I only serve musicians and bands, recording artists, songwriters, that kind of thing. So those that are music creators, if you will, and then also recording studios and independent record labels. And so I'm very heavily music focused on purpose, because there are some nuances and things that are different about this industry than, say, manufacturing or retail or airlines or whatever, transportation, that kind of thing. It is much different. And so, like I said, me serving the music community is kind of my give back from, you know, the scholarship and the discipline that I learned from the craft. And I guess to kind of describe our day-to-day or what services we provide, are, of course, taxes. That's normally one of the first things that people kind of come into contact with us about is, hey, this music's in tax thing, I don't really get it, or I don't want to get it. Here, you do this part, you know. And so that's normally the first part that people find us about. The second part is like, was built out of necessity, which was more the bookkeeping and record keeping side of, you know, you have an artist who is traveling the country, or the world, I should say the world, performing and that kind of thing. And there's a lot of things that come along with that, and being able to actually put all the internal processes of keeping the money together and making sure people get paid and make sure you get paid. So we do that as well. And then also like the accounting work, and we do some price coaching to kind of help artists get the confidence to charge a fair rate for themselves and to really value what they do and help other people to see the value of what they do, versus just kind of taking the free route or, you know, cutting themselves short, because they do provide value in the world, and helping them to be able to charge for that. So
cool. And so what do you think about the trend in the last several years to give music away, to give art away, to have people expect you to, like, well, there's another artist I spoke to who's a painter, and he's really great. He had a dentist. His dentist said, hey, you could hang some of your paintings in my office. It would be great exposure. And he was like, no. I mean, like, what is
No.
that? How do you talk to your clients about that? What do you recommend?
Yeah, so two things. I've seen a lot of stuff where it's like, hey, you should pay for music because we have bills. People don't buy music because you have bills, just like you don't buy accounting services because I have bills. You buy it out of necessity or out of enjoyment. And so you really want to reach your target audience. Like, for example, like the artist that you're talking about, maybe the type of people that are visiting the dental office are not likely the type of people that would buy his art. Maybe the people that would buy his art maybe are the dentists of the world or the doctors of the world who can afford to buy a $4,000 piece of art to put on their wall.
Exactly.
I don't want you to hang it up. I don't want to hang it up for free. You should purchase it because it's beautiful, you know, and it's going to add a certain ambiance to your office building. So I think I always tell artists that what you're doing is not it's only free if you want it to be. You can give away anything if you would like to. I blog every Tuesday, and so technically I'm giving away pieces of my brain as time comes along. But that's something that I've chosen to do. If you're wanting to make money from the music, then giving it away is counterproductive to what your goal is, or music or whatever other type of art. Let me not be too specific there. But you're putting value out into the world, and there are people who value that, and that's what I try to help them realize is that even though that one person who contacted you that one day wants you to do your artwork for free, doesn't mean that there's not someone else who's willing to pay $500, $1,000 for that one piece or more. It's really just about finding the people who really value what you do. If music was invaluable or needed to be handed out for free, think about if everybody just stopped creating music and we'd only have the old stuff to listen to. You know, now, and I say old meaning, you know, we'd have to just keep listening to the same stuff that's already been produced, and everybody stops producing music, we'd have some issues. You know, there's music is present in everything, whether it's March Madness on the floor, you can hear music playing in the stadiums, you know, from the street, everywhere. It's in movies, so it is valuable to society. It's just a matter of finding the people that really want what you have. So I'm not a big proponent of you working for free. You can give away what you want to for free, but I still think that the art itself is very valuable.
Mm-hmm. No, that you make a really good point on when you say people don't buy it to help me pay my bills.
Mm-hmm.
People buy it for their own enjoyment or because they need to put it in the video that they're making or what have you. Mm-hmm. And they don't buy that piece of art as a favor to you.
Right.
You know, they buy it from what they're going to get for it. And so don't, you know, just like stop selling it that way.
Right, yeah.
Stop using that as, you know, as a selling point because it's, you know, it doesn't have anything to do with them.
Totally not. If anything, it's kind of annoying as a fan, you know, like, okay, well, I have bills too, so I should use my bill money to pay for your art. I don't know, but it's not really, that's not the way that consumers think. It's not the way that fans think. They're not thinking, hey, I want to support this band. They're like, no, I want their music. Purchasing something is a selfish thing. We're not doing it for you. We're doing it for us. And like, oh, I'm purchasing that song because I want to play it at my wedding, or I'm purchasing that song because I heard it on the radio and it made me feel a certain way, or I heard it in a movie and it did this, or it just helps me remember that time, or whatever it is. You know, it's not about your inputs, and no one cares how much it cost you to record or how long it took you to paint or anything like that. Just like, for example, I don't charge by the hour at Growth Group, one reason being because my input, how long it takes me, does not matter to you. You just want the results. And so we agree on a price up front, and if that's something that if that's valuable to you for what the result is going to be, then we're good. If not, then, you know, you might have to find someone else, but we don't charge by the hour because my inputs aren't valuable for the result. I could take 20 hours or I could take 20 minutes, but if you get the same result, that's what you're really paying for, is what you're getting out of it. So,
wow, fascinating. Okay, that's a really interesting way to think about it. I mean, you know, I guess it's just like flat rate versus hourly. It's not that different than that. That's what it is. It's just sort of the mindset that you're applying to it is. I haven't heard anybody express it that way before. That's pretty interesting. Okay. So at what point in an artist's career do you think they should be getting in touch with an accountant?
Good question. I think that you should consult with an accountant when you decide it's not a hobby. When you think that this is something that you want to make your livelihood, and you want to, help, this is something you want to do into retirement and that kind of thing, that's when you should at least consult someone that's a professional, whether it be a lawyer, an accountant, because they can help set you up business-wise to be successful and maybe help with some of that price coaching or record keeping and things like that. Because what a lot of artists forget is that if they're not a hobby, then they're a business, right? And if they're a business, then they should operate that way. Be the CFO, be the CEO of your brand and treat it as a business. And I know that's sometimes hard for artists to kind of, oh, I just love what I do. Well, I love what I do too, but I still have to, treat it as a business as well. And so I think it doesn't have to be an expensive thing. It could just be an hour-long conversation where you get some guidance on what you should be looking for or what you should be looking to. But it should definitely be something, once you decide that this is a career path versus just something that you enjoy doing for fun. Like, for example, I like to sew. Do I ever plan on selling clothing? Absolutely not. I know that, like, I'm not that good at it, and it's, like, the arm might be a little crooked, but I made it, so it was good, it was good for me, but I don't ever plan to do that for anyone else. So, that's a hobby that I don't need business advice on versus, something that I'm trying to make a living out of, would be great to. So I say artists should consult a professional when they decide that this is something that they want to do for a living, and they're needing help with that. I just talked to an artist I think last week, and he's fully he's fully employed. He's an employee for the government, but right now he's coming up against that wall where the day job is getting in the way of the music. To where he can't take on any more shows, he can't take on any more teaching gigs because he still has to go to work from 9 to 5. And that when that conflict starts to happen too, and you really want to do the music full time, that might be another time to consult with somebody like he did. He went ahead and called and said, hey, this is what's going on. How do I make this transition from employee to, self-employed? So that's another time too.
What do you know now that you really wish you had known either in college or like soon after getting out of college?
Okay. I would say that there's not one way to pursue a career. There are so many different avenues to achieve, to, like I said, marry the things that you love and also the things that you're good at. And they don't have to be the traditional path. Just to kind of open my doors a little bit, I'm 28 and I'm 100% self-employed as an accountant. That's not where I thought I would be at 21 when I graduated from college. I thought I was going to go work for a big firm and work my way up the ranks and become a partner one day, and that's not, but once I got into it, it was like, man, I don't really like this. I really don't like this place where I work, or I don't like the people I work with. And so it was like, what do I have to do to make sure that I'm still happy in life and that I'm content with life? Because most of our work life is spent, 8 hours a day of our waking hours are spent at this place. So how can I make this more comfortable for me? And if I'm not able to make my day job comfortable, what can I do on the side that's enjoyable, or that kind of thing. So I think originally my career path was get a good job, make sure it pays well, it has some good benefits, so I have health insurance, and make a career out of it and work there for 25 years and get a pension. And that's just, that's kind of the old school way of thinking, if you will. I think now with technology, you're in Baltimore, I'm in Atlanta, and we're still able to work together. I think now people can carve out their own career path, and it doesn't have to be that traditional, I work for someone else at a desk from 9 to 5, and that's how my life goes, and I do that each and every day. I think you can create a different opportunity. It doesn't have to be that you're the performer on stage. Maybe you are a composer and a songwriter, and your songs and what you've created is still in movies and still, being performed, just not by you, and you're still making a great career in music or art in a different way. So I think
Okay.
that's what I would say, is that to take a different career path and not necessarily think just about the traditional way things were done.
Another quote I saw yesterday was something like, if if you don't work on your own dream, somebody else will hire you to work on theirs.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that really kind of, I mean, if you have any aspirations of going your own way and building your own vision, that one definitely drives a stake through the heart of having an 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 job for sure. What makes you happy?
Um, I one time I think it was Kirk Franklin who said, you know, that I'd rather be content, because if you're happy, then something has to be happening. And so I think I'm more content. I'm working more towards contentment than happiness, because then it feels like something has to be going on in order to drive that. So I think that I would answer that question by saying that doing what I love. And I know that's like so cliche, and everybody's like, "Oh, follow your passion." But one of the things, I really enjoy what I do, and I really enjoy that. I've married the two, and now I create my own schedule. I'm here with you at 11:45 in the afternoon or in the morning, and it's not the traditional accounting thing. And so I've kind of, like you said, I've created my life the way that I want it to be. And that's what makes me happy. I can pick up and I can work from anywhere, so long as I have a Wi-Fi connection. And that's something that's important to me. If I want to go work in Australia, I can. I'd just be a couple hours behind. I might have to wake up to do this interview at 1 in the morning, But at the same time, to me, that's valuable. That's kind of how I want my life to be, so that I don't have to be strung to a desk or tied down. And so what makes me happy is being able to create the life that I want and then adjust it as I go, and more things happen.
What recommendations would you have for college students who are headed into careers in the arts, specifically for their personal finances? Like, what are some things that they could be doing right now with that long game in mind?
Great question. And honestly, this is what I did. I started to, if they have any income coming in at this point, I say invest in yourself first. And by that I mean, if you make $100, or we'll say $1,000. If you make $1,000, take 10% of that, which would be $100, and put that into a savings account and don't touch it. It might be at another bank, anything like that. And every time you get paid, just take 10% of it. You get $200, take $20 and put it in a savings account. And that'll start to bulk up, and it'll help fund your dream later. Maybe you don't have to crowdfund your next project or whatever, because you've been taking a portion of every dollar that comes into you, and you're essentially reinvesting that in yourself. That's one thing that I started doing when I realized that I wanted to pursue the music and accounting full time. From my day job's paycheck, I started taking 10% of that every month and putting that into a checking account, into a savings account. And that allowed me to have the bulk of savings that I did when I jumped, so that I could have that cushion. And you kind of want that cushion to be able to land on. Or if you do end up, unemployed for a minute or injured or anything that can happen, it gives you that bulk to kind of fall back on. And trust me, you'll be glad it's there.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a good one. That's a really good one. Okay. Anything else that you wanna leave as parting thoughts? Those are some great book recommendations. There are some great personal finance recommendations. Wonderful story about how your career has evolved, and your mom and her role in this was just a beautiful story. So this has just been awesome. Is there anything that you want to leave with?
No, I just say, be excellent in everything that you do. Do it for yourself, and it'll make you feel a lot better.
Yay! Very good advice. Very good advice. I love it. Okay. Well, let's sign off. Thank you so much. This has been
Thank
C.K.
you.
Barlow talking with Alexis Kimbrough of the Growth Group, and I hope you've all enjoyed the interview.